Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Practice English TV. I'm Mark, and I'm happy you're here with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. Thanks for listening. Today's topic is something a lot of people experience at some point, and honestly, it can feel pretty stressful.
Yeah, we're talking about job interviews, especially the kind where you walk in and immediately feel like you're not ready.
That nervous feeling is so real. Your hands feel cold, your mind suddenly goes blank, and even simple questions start sounding difficult.
Exactly. Sometimes you practice answers before the interview, but then the moment you sit down in that chair, everything feels different.
And even confident people can feel awkward during interviews. Maybe they speak too fast, forget words, or answer in a strange way because they're nervous.
So today, we're going to have a natural conversation about those moments, the nervousness, the awkward silences, and the little mistakes people make during interviews. If you enjoy learning English with us, feel free to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends.
Thank you so much for being here and learning with us today. Let's begin and talk about stressful job interviews together.
I was thinking about this the other day. Job interviews are strange because sometimes you can feel nervous before you even leave your house.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the stress starts the night before.
Exactly. You try to sleep, but your brain keeps thinking about possible questions.
Like, tell me about yourself, or why do you want this job?
Right. And then you start practicing answers in your head over and over again.
But somehow, the answers sound perfect at home and completely different during the interview.
Yeah. Suddenly your English feels less natural the moment the interview begins.
I remember one interview where I was sitting outside the office waiting for my turn, and I could actually hear my heartbeat.
That nervous?
Very nervous. I kept looking at my resume like it was going to save me somehow.
I've done that too. You read the same paper again and again, even though you already know what's on it.
Exactly. And then someone opens the door and says your name, and suddenly it feels very real.
That moment is the worst sometimes. You stand up, try to smile, and walk into the room pretending to feel calm.
Pretending is the important word there.
Yeah. Inside you're thinking, please don't ask me something difficult.
Here's a situation a lot of people probably know. The interviewer smiles and says, "Tell me a little about yourself."
Which sounds like an easy question.
But when you're nervous, even your own name feels complicated for a second.
That's true. Your brain suddenly slows down.
And then you start speaking too fast because you want to sound confident.
Or you start talking too much and forget your original point.
I've definitely done that before. I answered a simple question for almost 2 minutes and then realized I didn't really answer it.
Yeah, sometimes nervous people just keep talking.
Another awkward moment is when there's silence in the room.
Oh, yes. Even a few seconds can feel incredibly long.
You finish your answer and the interviewer starts writing notes.
And while they're writing, you start wondering if your answer was terrible.
Exactly. You begin analyzing every word you just said.
Let's imagine another small situation. You practiced one answer many times before the interview.
But then the interviewer asks the question in a different way.
So now you're sitting there trying to understand the question and remember your prepared answer at the same time.
That can really increase the pressure.
Especially when English isn't your first language.
Yeah, because sometimes you know the idea in your head, but you can't organize the sentence quickly enough.
And then you start using small filler words like or
Which honestly is very normal in real conversations.
Definitely. Even native speakers do that during stressful moments.
I think one of the hardest parts is trying to stay calm while also trying to sound professional.
Yeah, you want to be friendly, confident, and clear all at the same time.
And sometimes your nervousness shows anyway.
But honestly, that's part of being human.
Exactly. Most interviewers probably understand that people get nervous.
And almost everyone has at least one awkward interview story.
Oh, definitely. Some stories become funny later, just maybe not in the moment.
You know what's interesting? Some of the most stressful interview moments are actually very small moments.
Yeah, not always the big questions. Sometimes it's something simple and unexpected.
I remember arriving early for an interview once. I thought that would help me feel more relaxed.
That sounds responsible.
It did at first, but then I had to sit in the waiting area for almost 20 minutes.
Oh no, that's too much time to think.
Exactly. At first, I was calm, but after a while, I started looking around too much.
Like noticing every little thing?
Yeah, I started wondering if everyone else looked more confident than me.
That comparison feeling is so common.
Then another candidate walked in wearing a really formal suit and carrying a nice folder.
And suddenly your confidence dropped?
Immediately, I looked down at my clothes and thought maybe I dressed too casually.
Interviews can really make people overthink everything.
Seriously, even the way you sit starts feeling important.
I had a moment like that too. During one interview, the interviewer asked me a very simple question about teamwork.
Okay.
And I actually had a good answer prepared, but for some reason, I completely forgot the word project.
Really?
Yeah, my brain just stopped working for a second.
That's painful.
So I sat there trying to explain it without using the word. We were working on a big work thing together.
A big work thing.
Yeah, it sounded so awkward.
Honestly, though, nervousness can make very smart people sound completely different.
Exactly. And the more nervous you become, the harder it is to think clearly.
Here's another situation that happens a lot. The interviewer asks, "Do you have any questions for us?"
That question always comes at the end.
And sometimes your brain is already tired by then.
Right. You've been nervous for 30 minutes already.
So instead of asking something thoughtful, you suddenly panic.
I once answered, "No, I think I'm okay," way too quickly.
And then later, you remembered 5 questions you could have asked.
Exactly. On the way home, suddenly my brain started working again.
That always happens after stressful situations.
Another awkward thing is small talk before the interview starts.
Oh yeah, sometimes the interviewer tries to be friendly.
They ask something simple like, "How was the traffic?" or "Did you find the office easily?"
But because you're nervous, even casual conversation feels difficult.
I remember answering, "Yes, the traffic was very traffic today."
Very traffic?
Yeah, I knew it sounded wrong immediately.
But honestly, that's kinda cute.
At the time, it did not feel cute.
I understand. During interviews, small mistakes feel much bigger than they really are.
And sometimes you replay those moments in your head for days.
Definitely. But most interviewers probably forget those small mistakes very quickly.
That's true. People are usually more focused on the overall conversation.
And honestly, interviews are not supposed to feel perfect all the time.
Yeah, real conversations include pauses, hesitation, and nervous moments.
Especially when the situation matters to you.
Exactly. If you care about the job, of course you'll feel pressure sometimes.
And even awkward interviews can become valuable experiences later.
Sometimes they even become funny stories you tell your friends afterwards.
Let's slow things down a little and look at some common words and expressions people often hear during job interviews.
Yeah, these are the kinds of phrases that can feel stressful at first, especially if you're nervous already.
One of the most common phrases is, "Tell me about yourself."
This usually comes near the beginning of the interview.
And even though it sounds simple, many people feel pressure when they hear it.
Another common question is, "Why do you want this job?"
Or sometimes, "Why are you interested in this position?"
The word position here means the job.
You may also hear the word experience.
For example, "Tell me about your work experience."
Experience means the work or skills you gained before.
Now, let's imagine a small situation. The interviewer asks, "Can you work under pressure?"
At first, maybe you don't fully understand the phrase under pressure.
It means working in stressful situations or busy environments.
Another common word is strengths.
An interviewer might ask, "What are your strengths?"
That means the things you are good at.
You may also hear the opposite question, "What are your weaknesses?"
That question makes a lot of people nervous.
Yeah, because people want to answer honestly but still sound professional.
Another useful phrase is, I'm a little nervous.
Honestly, sometimes saying that naturally can make the conversation feel more human.
Right, you don't need to pretend you feel perfectly calm all the time.
Here's another small situation. The interviewer asks a question, but you didn't hear it clearly.
You can say, sorry, could you repeat that?
Or, "Sorry, I didn't catch the question."
Those are polite and completely normal.
Now, let's talk about hesitation words.
Words like or phrases like, let me think.
People often use these when they need a moment to organize their thoughts.
And honestly, even native English speakers use them during interviews.
Another useful expression is "take your time."
Sometimes interviewers say this when they notice someone is nervous.
It means there's no need to rush your answer.
Now, imagine another situation. You answer a question, but halfway through, you realize your sentence is confusing.
You can pause and say, "Sorry, let me say that again."
Or, what I mean is,
These phrases help you correct yourself naturally.
another word people hear often is qualified.
If someone is qualified, it means they have the skills or experience needed for the job.
You might also hear schedule, team, responsibility, or communication skills.
These are all very common interview words.
At the end of many interviews, the interviewer might say, we'll get back to you.
That means they will contact you later with a decision.
And before leaving, many people say, thank you for your time.
It's simple, polite, and very natural.
The important thing to remember is that interviews are real conversations.
Yeah, they may feel formal, but they still include pauses, nervousness, and small mistakes sometimes.
And learning these words little by little can help interviews feel less intimidating over time. Let's imagine a real interview situation from beginning to end.
Okay, so maybe I'm sitting outside the interview room waiting.
Yeah, and you're checking your resume again, even though you already read it 5 times.
Exactly, and my hands are a little cold because I'm nervous.
Then someone opens the door and says, Emma?
And immediately my heart starts beating faster.
You stand up, smile politely, and walk into the room.
The interviewer says, "Hi, nice to meet you."
And you answer, nice to meet you too.
So far, everything feels okay.
Then they ask you to sit down.
And there's always that small, awkward moment with the chair.
Yeah, sometimes the chair moves strangely or makes noise.
Or you sit down too quickly because you're nervous.
Then the interview begins. The interviewer smiles and says, can you tell me a little about yourself?
Okay, this is where the pressure starts.
You prepared for this question at home.
Yes, but suddenly my answer disappears from my brain.
So you pause for a second and try to stay calm.
I'd probably say, "Sure, my name is Emma, and I recently finished school."
That already sounds natural.
But inside, I'm thinking too much about every sentence.
That's very realistic during interviews.
Then maybe I continue with, "I've worked part-time before, mostly in customer service."
And the interviewer nods while listening.
That part can be stressful too, because sometimes it's hard to know what they're thinking.
Exactly. If they look serious, you start worrying immediately.
Then they ask another question like, "Why do you want this job?"
And maybe you prepared something simple but professional.
I might say, "I like working with people, and I want to improve my communication skills."
That's a good answer.
But then maybe I start speaking too fast because I'm nervous.
A lot of people do that without noticing.
Then I accidentally skip part of my sentence and need to correct myself.
So you stop for a moment and say, sorry, let me say that again.
Yeah, something like that.
Honestly, correcting yourself calmly can sound more natural than pretending nothing happened.
That's true.
Here's another small situation. The interviewer asks a question, but you don't fully understand it,
That's one of the scariest moments.
especially when you feel pressure to answer quickly.
Maybe the interviewer says, "How do you handle pressure in fast-paced environments?"
And you understand some words, but not everything.
So instead of pretending, I could say, "Sorry, could you repeat that more slowly?"
Exactly, that's completely okay.
Then, after hearing it again, maybe I understand better.
And you answer slowly and simply.
I'd probably say, "I try to stay calm and focus on one thing at a time."
Simple answers often sound more natural anyway.
Then comes another awkward moment.
Oh?
The interviewer asks, "What is your biggest weakness?"
Oh, that question makes so many people uncomfortable.
Because you suddenly start thinking too hard.
You want to sound honest, but not too negative.
Exactly, and sometimes the silence after the question feels so long.
Then maybe you finally answer with something careful like, "Sometimes I get nervous speaking in new situations,"
Which honestly is pretty true for many people.
especially during interviews.
Then maybe the interviewer smiles a little and says, "That's understandable."
That kind of response can help people relax a bit.
Yeah, because suddenly the room feels more human and less scary.
As the interview continues, your confidence slowly becomes better.
I think that happens a lot. The beginning is usually the hardest part.
Definitely. After a few minutes, the conversation starts feeling more natural.
Then, near the end, the interviewer asks, "Do you have any questions for me?"
That question always surprises people even when they expect it.
Yeah, because your brain is already tired by then.
So maybe you ask something simple like, "What does a normal workday look like here?"
That sounds natural and professional.
Then the interview finally ends.
And the moment you walk out of the room, you immediately start thinking about every answer you gave.
Every single sentence.
Exactly. Even tiny mistakes suddenly feel very big.
But most of the time, the interview probably went better than you think.
Yeah, nervous people are usually much harder on themselves afterward.
Let's go over some useful phrases people often use during stressful job interviews.
Yeah, especially phrases that sound natural even when you're nervous.
A very common one is, "Nice to meet you."
Simple, polite, and usually one of the first things you say.
Another useful phrase is, "Thank you for having me today."
That sounds warm and professional without feeling too formal.
Now imagine a small situation. The interview begins and you feel your mind going blank for a second.
Instead of panicking, you can pause and say, "Let me think for a moment."
That gives you a little time to organize your thoughts.
And honestly, short pauses are very normal in interviews.
Another useful phrase is, "I'm a little nervous,"
Sometimes people try so hard to hide their nervousness,
but saying it naturally can actually reduce the tension a little.
especially if your voice is shaking slightly anyway.
Right, it can make the conversation feel more honest and human.
Here's another situation. The interviewer asks a question, but you only understand part of it.
You can say, "Sorry, could you repeat the question?"
Or, "Sorry, I didn't understand the last part."
Those are clear and polite responses.
Another useful phrase is, "What I mean is,"
That's helpful when your first sentence comes out a little messy.
which happens a lot during stressful moments.
Definitely. Interviews can make people speak differently than usual.
Sometimes you start a sentence confidently and then lose your direction halfway through.
Yeah, and suddenly you're just trying to survive the sentence.
Exactly.
Another common phrase is, "I worked on a team project."
Interviewers often ask about teamwork or past experiences.
You may also hear phrases like, "I learned a lot from that experience."
Or, "I'm still improving my communication skills."
These answers sound natural because they feel honest and realistic.
Now, let's imagine another awkward moment. You accidentally say the wrong word during your answer.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Maybe you notice the mistake immediately.
Instead of freezing, you can simply correct yourself.
For example, sorry, that's not the word I meant.
Or, let me explain that differently.
Small corrections like that are completely normal in real conversations.
Another useful expression is, I don't have much experience yet, but I'm willing to learn.
That's especially useful for beginners or younger job applicants.
It sounds positive without pretending to know everything.
And honestly, interviewers usually understand that not everyone has years of experience.
Near the end of the interview, you might hear, do you have any questions for us?
You can ask something simple, like, what does a normal day look like here?
Or, what do you enjoy about working here?
Those questions help keep the conversation natural.
And before leaving, many people say, thank you for your time.
Simple phrases like that leave a calm and professional impression.
The important thing is not sounding perfect.
Yeah, real interviews include hesitation, pauses, and nervous moments sometimes.
And honestly, sounding natural is often better than sounding overly rehearsed.
Because real conversations are never perfectly smooth all the time.
Especially when someone truly cares about the opportunity. Before we finish today, it's interesting to think about how emotional job interviews can feel sometimes.
Yeah, even people who seem calm on the outside are often nervous inside.
And honestly, interviews are a strange kind of conversation.
Because you're trying to be yourself, but at the same time, you're trying to make a good impression.
Exactly. You want to sound confident, friendly, professional, and calm all at once.
Which can feel exhausting after a while.
Especially when the interview is important to you.
I think one difficult part is that people often focus too much on their mistakes afterwards.
Yeah, you leave the building and suddenly your brain starts replaying every awkward moment.
Like, why did I say that? Or I should have answered differently.
Or sometimes you remember a perfect answer 30 minutes too late.
That happens so often.
But usually the interviewer is not analyzing every small mistake the way you are.
That's true. Most conversations are not perfectly smooth in real life anyway.
Here's a small moment a lot of people experience. You walk out of the interview feeling disappointed.
Maybe because you forgot a word, spoke too fast, or felt awkward during one answer.
But later, when you think about it more calmly, you realize some parts actually went okay.
Yeah, sometimes nervous people only remember the uncomfortable moments at first.
Another thing people forget is that interviews are stressful for almost everyone.
Especially when they really want the job.
And honestly, sometimes interviewers can tell when someone is nervous.
But that doesn't automatically mean the interview went badly.
Exactly. Nervousness is human. Here's another small moment people often experience. The interview finally ends and you say goodbye.
Then you walk outside and immediately take a deep breath.
Like your body was holding stress the entire time.
And suddenly you feel tired even though you were only talking.
Stress can do that.
But every interview becomes experience, even the awkward ones.
Definitely. Every conversation helps you feel a little more comfortable next time.
And little by little, the fear becomes smaller.
Now we have a question for you.
Have you ever had a stressful interview or a nervous moment while speaking English?
Maybe you forgot a word, answered too quickly, or felt awkward during a conversation.
Or maybe you practiced a lot before an interview but still felt nervous when it finally started.
Try to describe that experience in simple English.
Even short answers are great practice. And if you'd like, you can write your answers in English in the comments.
That's a great way to practice and connect with other learners.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
We hope this conversation felt natural, relaxing, and helpful for your English listening practice.
And if you've ever felt nervous during an interview, just remember that you're definitely not alone.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care and keep practicing your English every day.